There we go. All right. Hey, to anyone who might be joining us, we'll be starting the show very shortly here. We got a great show today with the great Mike Bryant joining us. And let's see. If you don't mind, we're on YouTube now as well, so you can watch it there. Please share it and comment as always, and we'll put your comments up during the show. We'll be starting in about 30 seconds.
Oh, well, here we are.
Who's Gabe talking to when he the people on the Facebook stream.
Yeah. His imaginary friends. Who's Gabe talking to?
Talking, like for real. Did you want something from us, Gabe?
I was just telling Davis that she's plugged in.
Oh, okay.
And then we're going to start the commercial.
Okay, shut up. All right, I tried. It didn't work.
Support for Wrong About Everything comes from Minnesota's credit unions. Credit unions are locally based, member-owned financial cooperatives that return earnings to members through higher savings rates, lower loan rates, and reduced fees. Visit mncun.org for more information.
And welcome back to another episode of Wrong About Everything. I am Democratic strategist, the Puerto Rican Heat, Enrico Suave. Javier Morillo.
I am conservative strategist and Twin City Sugar, Brian McDaniel.
I am former Republican Senate Majority Leader Amy Koch.
And I am small business attorney Davis Senseman.
And we are?
Wrong About Everything.
Hey, everybody.
Is my mic weird?
Your mic is
A
weird.
little bit, yeah.
My mic's being weird, Gabe.
Gabe, I don't think it's on. It's
Here, we can share.
Yeah. No, that's not a good idea.
All right, you guys do your stuff.
All right. No, literally can't hear you.
Never mind.
It's not plugged in.
Oh, it's not plugged in.
This is great. This
It's
is great.
like when you give a little kid a
fantastic.
controller and you're
Nice.
like, you're playing.
Yeah, do not
There
edit
you
this
go.
out. This is
Nope, let's leave it. Brian did
On-air
that. Honestly, you
production.
can never, ever make fun of me again for pretty much anything.
literally no cord attached to the microphone.
But why would I know that?
Why would you know that your own mic that's in front of you
This one,
doesn't
like
have
when you
cord?
pick it up.
Maybe it's a wireless mic. I don't know. I'm not part of the tech crew.
That's true.
But now, can
Yeah,
you
you
hear
know
me?
what? We need a little more patrons so we can afford the
Davis,
tech crew.
yes.
Can you hear me, though?
I can hear you, yeah.
All right.
Great.
Welcome to the Minnesota Credit Union Network studio. Sorry for that bumpy start, but Brian's having a day. He's not.
I don't feel shame.
You might feel an ulcer.
I might have an ulcer.
Yeah.
I got problems.
Yeah, don't ask him about the symptoms, though. Yeah. Yes. Shop at the credit union. Shop at credit unions.
Put your money in a credit
Put
union.
your money in a credit union. Shop somewhere else. And if you need a lawyer, you know where you go. You go to Bradshaw and Bryant. And in fact, very soon, in a few minutes, we're going to be hearing from the Bryant of Bradshaw and Bryant. Their entire team of attorneys and staff is dedicated to providing the legal advice you need, combined with the service and personal attention you deserve. If you have questions about how they can assist you with a personal injury, wrongful death, or criminal defense matter, do not hesitate to contact them because consultations are free. Please call them at 800-770-7008 or at minnesotapersonalinjury.com. You know why I called Mike Bryant about this week's show?
What was it?
What?
Rico Suave.
Yeah.
He's going to teach us about it.
About Rico. About Rico. That song's been stuck in my head all day long.
All day.
Because of the damn Rico lawsuit.
You know, before we get to that,
Yeah?
my sister, when she was in college, and still living at home, a gentleman caller called the house. My dad answered the phone, and he said, asked for my sister, and he said, well, tell her that Eric called. Then he called later on, like after 10 o'clock, and he said, well, tell him that Rico called. And my dad goes, well, didn't you call earlier today and say your name was Eric? And he said, after 10, I'm Rico.
No,
Honestly, that's
said
pretty
that to a
smooth.
dad.
That's pretty cool. That's a guy.
That is not
He's
cool.
doing things right now. Eric is doing things.
Yeah,
Probably
his
behind
name is
bars.
Anton Lazaro now.
No. He's actually a semi-famous
See?
local hockey player.
Told ya.
So,
Told ya.
Okay, it must be a Wright County thing.
No, confidence. That's all I'm saying.
All right. Well, I called Mike Bryant because this week the big news is Rico lawsuit from Georgia.
Right. Another indictment.
Criminal.
Another lots of indictments.
Yeah.
And you're like, nice. So can we get Mike on there? Gabe?
Yeah, well,
there he
Hey,
is.
Mike, how you doing?
Good. How are you doing? I see Brian finally figured out the trick you have been doing for weeks with no cord.
Yeah.
This should not be my concern as the talent.
Okay, that's
The
talent. That's doing a lot of work there,
Oh
buddy.
my gosh, that never has a word done so much work as when he just used the word
I
talent.
feel shame about a lot of things.
Yeah.
Nah,
We need to pay that
not
word
this.
for all the work it did.
Good gracious.
All right. So I asked Mike to come on and asked him to brush up on Georgia's RICO statutes.
go. Yep.
Statutes. Because to explain the indictments to us. So Mike, for those who don't, because I had understood. RICO was RICO's originally the federal. There was the federal version happened first, right?
it's racketeering. You
Right,
hear-
but it
you
was
hear-
created. It was created to fight the mob.
You hear it
was-
mostly associated with.
I'm going to be dumb and say, what is racketeering? Because
what
I
is
don't even know
racketeering?
what racketeering is and how this applies. So.
Yes.
Okay.
Mike, what is
Can you tell
racketeering?
us?
Basically, it's a way that they can indict a large number of people together. And they look into basically that they're kind of a joint enterprise or joint action together. So, where normally you'd get an indictment that's one person getting charged, the other indictments he's gotten were all him alone getting charged. And the grand jury looked at the issue of whether or not he deserved to, for them to go forward. This time they brought a whole group of people. And when you look at the chart, and I've seen the chart, I saw it in the Trib today, I've seen it in a couple of newspapers, it is incredible who's all involved in this and the number of lawyers that they've got tied up in this too. And what that does is that really separates him from his lawyers because they've got their own problems to deal with because of their own indictments, their own part of the RICO action.
Right.
So there's 18 others indicted with him. So that
Correct.
group, then, that's racketeering. When you do a criminal enterprise and it's a way to, then you get charged with racketeering because you work together for the racket.
You have to prove their action in consort to do something criminal, so that their actions were done in a way that they were all involved in. And that's why when you look at the chart, there's different things that people are charged with, but overall they're all charged with the same thing, which is basically trying to overthrow an election.
Well, and Mike, so what would be the distinguishing factor between something that is a RICO versus a garden variety conspiracy case?
Well, you wouldn't get an indictment on a garden variety conspiracy case. You just have individual indictments for
right.
Whatever you did wrong. You'd have a murder indictment, or you'd have a drug dealing indictment. But in this circumstance, they're charging people for acting together to come out with some result, which is to basically overthrow the election, or at least overthrow Georgia's part of the election. It's incredible how much Georgia has changed in the last 2 years. I mean, from a state that, has basically been red to, holy cow, they're leading the charge in a number of ways. They're leading the charge in the Senate. They're leading the charge in the indictments and this RICO action.
Yeah.
Okay, and included in these folks that were indicted are Trump's own lawyers. Correct. Several
There's
of his own
multiple
lawyers. So
lawyers that
that
were
Sidney
indicted.
Powell person, but a couple others. John Eastman, besides Giuliani, which I don't know if he's anyone's lawyer. I don't even know what that was. But besides Giuliani and Chief of Staff Mark Meadows, there are 3 attorneys that Sidney Powell, that I think folks knew, John Eastman and Kenneth Chesbro. And one of them, they're alleging tried to break into some into voting machines to change the vote totals. One of the lawyers.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah, there's some of the people some of the 19 people in listening to this indictment and are not known to most people before, because they took part in things like breaking and hacking into a computer system for that they and someone the people harassing Ruby Freeman, the election worker, which I mean on that actually made me very happy, that that situation was terrible.
So do you here's a question with the RICO, because I've heard some other legal experts, not as good as you, Mike, that have said it's a little more difficult, or it's a little heavier doing the RICO approach. Is that harder? Like if one person is found innocent, does the whole racket fall apart? Do you have to find everybody guilty, or why are they saying that?
You have to get the charge that they're acting in consort to basically get the RICO action to work.
Okay.
But yeah, that's the problem with it is as your pieces fall away. Now, what happens generally in a RICO action is that people get brought, that the lower level people generally end up turning on everybody else.
Yeah. That makes sense.
So you get those people locked in with lighter sentences or with immunity, and then they squeal on everybody on what they do. I mean, you've got the impersonation, you've got breaking into machines. You got some incredible things that it's unbelievable what they're looking at here in Georgia.
Yeah, some of the speculation that the legal analysis that I've heard is that most likely you won't in the end have 19 people on trial because you have that many people, and it's worth that many people, like, and some of them will want to make deals, especially if you're not Donald Trump and have an endless spigot of like donors, campaign donors like giving you money, like you got to figure this out. It's like in the Jack Smith indictment on the overturning the election, that one, like, there are unindicted co-conspirators that are named or that are they're described. They're not named. Here, like, so, like, what is your sense of? Because one of the things people noted is that Mark Meadows does not appear in the Jack Smith one at all. So the speculation was that his lawyer made a really good deal for him because he's not even listed as an unindicted co-conspirator. Here, he is an indicted member of the racket, and. Do you think that was like bad lawyering on his lawyer's part or something? Like, because but if he sang to the feds, can't Fani Willis then use that? And she's not bound by any agreement they made with him, is she?
No, she wouldn't be bound by any agreement, but they may know that as far as what the agreements are and what he'll say. They need him because he's a real important part in tying everything together. And so they need to make sure they put all the pieces together. Now, to me, what's going to be interesting about this is you've got the head person who's probably never going to ever take a deal. I mean, I expect he'll ride the publicity and try everything. And when that happens, I don't know what they're going to end up having to do with everything if a bunch of people turn, but they're still looking at going to trial overall because Trump won't ever take a deal.
So politically, this was interesting because, of course, the former president came out and said, I think it's going to happen. Supposedly Tuesday, he's releasing a large, detailed, but irrefutable report on the presidential election fraud, which took place in Georgia.
That's a terrible
He said
idea.
it's almost complete. Yep, and it will. Oh, I'm sorry, Monday at 11 a.m. next week in Bedminster, New Jersey. Okay, so first of all, I'm not sure who put together the report because most of the lawyers are being indicted, and right? Like Sidney Powell and all these other lawyers were supposedly the ones that were doing the investigation, Giuliani. We over and over again, they've released like pieces of this report where they were just so off. I remember they released Michigan, like their detailed reports of Michigan, and they had a bunch of counties and townships and precincts that were from Minnesota. I remember because they had a bunch of Wright County precincts in there and saying the votes are off. And it's like, well, first of all, Wright County voted overwhelmingly for Trump. They're not in Michigan. And also, like, we have a 96% turnout rate. That's right. We do have high turnout. We always have high turnout. You're welcome, Republicans. And so like, I don't even, and so first of all, would you as a lawyer allow him to release something on Monday? Or do they just not have any say in this? This seems very dangerous what he's going to do. Or maybe it's not because it's all bull.
Two things. You missed this legislator did trade Wright County to Michigan. This past legislature.
They've not been watching the help. They've been asleep at the wheel since I left, Mike.
But what he does versus what the lawyers say he should do, he does whatever the heck he wants. And I would expect that the report, with these indictments, they've got to be putting a handle on this, whatever comes out, because of what it could be used against him. But I don't know. That hasn't stopped him, and they've come out with other things, and he got sued because of what he said about the New York case that he didn't testify in after he got the verdict against him, and it's just he loves the publicity and he makes a lot of money off it. He raises tons of money off of these things.
Right.
Well, I'm gonna defend the Trump legal team here, in one aspect. Whichever of his attorneys wrote the non-disclosure agreement for Sean Spicer, that thing appears to be ironclad.
Yeah, really.
And they did a hell of a job on it.
Good point. He's never talked.
He can make a lot of money, and he's not.
Yeah.
It's interesting that, there are 30 unindicted co-conspirators in this one.
Right.
And I just thought it was so interesting. The first act they talked about was 5 days before the election. Trump was talking to an unindicted co-conspirator, so you have to imagine someone who's cooperating. Right. And he drafted a speech where he was going to say, "We can't believe the results of this election." And it's like, oh my, like,
right.
So that goes to intent, right? Like,
Right.
Well, you always
Exactly.
have. You always have. You always have a couple different speeches.
You
ready to
always,
go.
You always
I
have
need
a speech
Yeah,
saying
I
but
need a
stolen.
win, a lose, and a stolen.
But Mike, I was going to ask you, like, so put yourself in, like, say one of the lower level people in this indictment, and like, if you're representing them, what would your approach be, like with Fonnie Willis?
You're looking at going to prison. And so with some of these charges, you're looking at really significant issues, with the rights you're going to lose if you get convicted. So
you would say
I think
squeal.
they got to look hard at that.
Yeah.
So your
Say,
advice
cut
would
a deal.
be like, we need to go in and cut a deal.
Well, I'm not, I tend to not represent snitches, but that might be the situation.
You heard it here.
You heard it here, people. He doesn't.
You're gonna snitch. Don't call my
Don't call Mike Bryant.
You know what,
Bradshaw
Mike?
and Bryant.
Mike, this is a better advertisement than the copy we have for you here. Like, Mike Bryant does not represent snitches.
That's amazing.
Mike Bryant
We'll
says
change the
snitches
copyright
get
immediately.
stitches.
That's those guys over at Sieben Gross and Van Holten.
You can call them if you want to
If you want to
snitch.
be a dirty rat. You just don't know where I'm at.
That was hardcore.
I'm definitely hiring you if I get in trouble.
Yeah.
You'll
But-
be
but
like,
in-
"Do you think I should?" No, I don't.
But in general, you think that the lower level people charged in this are probably getting legal advice that, like, we got to figure something out. Like, we need to figure out a settlement.
With what they're looking at, what they've been drug into, lawyers are looking at losing their license. There's already a couple lawyers that have lost license for what they've done in these cases around the country. So, there's a lot of implications. And, it's one thing to support a candidate or support a position, but holy cow, to have your whole career go down because of somebody else doesn't make any sense.
Right.
So the governor of Georgia spoke out and distanced himself in a very big way. In fact, he actually captured the Trump tweet and said the 2020 election in Georgia was not stolen, period. For nearly 3 years now, everyone with evidence of fraud has failed to come forward, which is true, right?
Yeah.
They've never even really had any actual proof. So this report on Monday, I'm guessing, will not happen, or it'll be like bits and pieces. Like it will, he'll maybe what he'll do is he'll stand beside a stack of papers and go, "Here's the report. I'm exonerated."
Like
it's
when he
gonna
was
be
putting
something like that.
everything in a blind trust.
Right.
All these papers are going to put it in a blind
Right, we're
trust.
gonna put it. This is gonna be, but anyway, he said that we'll fail. The elections in Georgia are secure, accessible, and fair, and will continue to be as long as I am governor. The future of our country is at stake in 2024, and that must be our focus. And I think that's a good turn also, because here's the deal: we know that Georgia was lost. Both what's her name, Kelly, was probably going to lose,
Yeah.
but David Perdue was in a runoff that followed the 2020 election. And because of fears by Republicans that the election is stolen, stoked entirely by Donald Trump, I believe that's why David Perdue lost. He had won, but he had won by not quite enough. So there was the runoff or whatever they call it, and he lost. And I believe he cost that Senate seat without a doubt in my mind.
You also had, Herschel, run in, which, he was a tough candidate.
Yeah.
And beyond that, it wasn't so much that, that there wasn't the lack of trust. You had Trump actually mad at them for not supporting his position that had been stolen. So he wasn't going to speak. And then there were fights about should he speak and should he support him, and then things that he said. So it just created a big mess there that, the Democrats were able to take care of. And the only person who can't win in Georgia is Stacey Abrams, no matter what,
Well, that's, she's been my spank about 27 times on the show. But closed circuit to Republicans, you can believe 100% that Trump is innocent of all this and that it's politically motivated and that he's getting the runaround. You can believe that. I don't agree with you, but you can believe that. But you cannot tell yourself that he can win Georgia as the Republican candidate. And his legal problems have nothing to do with who is the best person to represent the Republicans in the next presidential election. And until you can show me how he can win Georgia, Arizona, North Carolina, these other states that he has taken from red to pink to baby blue in some ways, until you can show me how he Azure until you can show me how he can do that, you cannot convince me that one of the other fine conservative candidates that we have to choose from is not our better choice. Prove it to me.
Well, the lieutenant governor of Georgia was on CNN, and he was like, listen, unless all of the other candidates running against Trump stand up with one voice and say, he was like, we're just going to keep, and I was it's understandable that those people who led Georgia, who were all Republicans in 2020, are like, hey, get over it. You know what I mean? Like they're just like, we didn't do anything wrong.
No. It's like drawing Wright County into the election fraud. No, I know the county auditor. He's a nonpartisan position, but I know where he's from, and I promise you, he probably leans more right. And also, everybody elected in Wright County leans right. I hate to tell you, there wasn't fraud perpetrated in Wright County. All those votes were real, and they all came in for Trump. By the way, I mean, it's ridiculous. And there is something that, like, I'm so frustrated with the candidates running against Trump because he sits at 50-some%, right? 50-some%. And then people are like, well, can other people win? Yes, other people could win. In Iowa, he's at 44%, which tells me there's a whole bunch of Republicans that aren't willing to support him. New Hampshire's at 41%. Like in these early states, Trump's below the threshold. But it's just, how are people supposed to vote for anybody else when you don't stand up for anything? This man's been indicted 4 times now, 4 different states, and not a single statement from his opponents going, hey, wait a minute, y'all. Yeah, we should be worried about this. They just don't.
Mike, we're waiting.
But none of them are bringing new people in. And the problem you got is when you're dealing with pretty much the same people, Trump's got a good handle on them. Yeah. And that's where DeSantis's Trump light isn't working. Yeah. And never going to work. And anybody who tries to stand out gets booed by the people that are there that support him and believe he's, all in the right. Yeah. And that's why he makes so much money. He's a huge money maker.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, Mike, thanks for coming on.
20 years without snitch.
4 years without snitching.
Yeah.
20 years. Yep.
Yeah. Yep. We're going to change the
phone's going to be ringing off the hook now.
Mike Bryant, because he will not make you snitch. All right. Thanks.
All right.
Thank
you, Mike.
Take care. Thanks. Yeah. Take care.
I kind of felt like, the scene in the movie Office Space where they want to do money laundering, but they look it up in the dictionary.
Right. Yeah.
That's how savvy we are.
Yeah.
In the world of political fraud.
Oh, Lord. Well, so Amy and I were on Almanac last Friday.
Yeah, you are. Why didn't you plug it?
What?
On Wednesday.
Well,
we didn't know.
We didn't know.
Well, could they start letting you know by Wednesday?
No, they won't do that.
Well, they listen, so we would kindly request to be booked before
We
Wednesday.
don't have a quarrel with them, but they do tell us later in the week.
Yeah.
But to be fair, I think I had gotten a text prior. I just hadn't responded. Anyway, blah, 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 blah.
Anyway, but we didn't plug Almanac, but Almanac plugged us.
That's true.
So we were going to play 2 little clips from that show.
So we'd like to plug Almanac now.
Yeah, so we're going to scratch our back.
We're going to plug Almanac plugging us. It's like a time-space continuum of hubris and
Yep.
pride,
So,
pride,
Gabe,
pride.
if you want to run it, we'll tell you when to stop it.
Yeah.
Listen to your podcast this week.
Hey, thanks, Eric.
You were really tough on the party about women's issues and women's participation. What's going on there?
Well, I mean, we're hemorrhaging women, right? And there's not going to be, we are not going to get to safe majorities in this state, which is what I want. I want to see a Republican governor in this state. I want to see a Republican president at the helm. And we are not going to get there with the messaging and how we've been dealing, recruiting, talking about messaging, women in any kind of way. I mean, it's from everything from the Barbie movie, which apparently Republicans cannot allow that. Or you skip. And then there's one next.
No. I'm sorry. For those who are just listening as a podcast, that was a clip from Almanac of which. So that's.
Do you think people are jumping into our podcast midway?
It was Eric Escala talking to Amy.
Or maybe they're just listening.
You know, people remember they said we couldn't say LG. So
LG?
Lieutenant Governor. That was too inside baseball.
Who said that?
Remember I got a handwritten letter. Remember I got a letter.
Well, that's
someone listening to this podcast.
And now here's another clip from Almanac.
All right. Do you have the other clip?
And this will be
9% of Democrats nationwide approve of Joe Biden.
This is about Dean Phillips.
All right, listen. Dean Phillips is just embarrassing himself. Honestly, let's go back to how this started. A handful of rich people in New York invited him for a conversation. There is no base demanding this. There aren't a lot of people clamoring for this. This is an ego trip, and this is someone who, let's remember his district was red and then purple, and now it's pretty solidly blue. He won by 20 points. Like this is causing a lot of discontent. He should be worried about a primary challenge, and the best thing that could come out of this is he'll be the answer to a trivia question about self-involved Democratic candidates like Joe Lieberman and Tulsi Gabbard.
Friend of the program.
who has been a good friend of the podcast.
You guys talked over it. So I said self-involved candidates like Joe Lieberman and Tulsi Gabbard, and then Fritz Knack said, "Well, that was biting." Which
Fritz, Captain Obvious.
Which I said to you guys, I felt like I had brought Mexican food to a Lutheran potluck. It was like, oh, spicy. And Amy, you were there. You can attest to this. That when the camera lights were off, they were all like, "What did you do?"
Yeah.
Well, you did attack 2 Jewish people and a woman, so progressive my ass.
Great point, Brian.
Yeah.
Yeah. 2 jackasses.
Great point,
No, 3
Brian.
jackasses is really like what I got. No, I like to. I always say I love creating butt clenching moments on the Almanac couch. Because it's a very nice Minnesota show. It's very polite. But see that's what passes for that's not even that bad.
Well, it's not butt clenching here. These are things. Oh yeah, you say much worse things here.
Yeah,
it's not
you
as
do.
much clenching here.
Yeah.
But that's still.
But this is why I have a fan base of Democrats, elderly Democrats, who watch Almanac and who come up to me and say, "I love you on Almanac." Yeah.
They do like that.
They say it quietly.
They go, ooh.
Oh, spicy.
I watched Javier and you on there, and he said at one point, "Need to get up off there." And I watched him go through all the words in his head, and he was like, "bottoms." And I responded to him. And I sent him a text, and I said, "No. When you're on Almanac, you want to say duff.
Get off their
When
duffs.
I said I understand on the podcast you would say ass,
Yeah.
but Almanac it's duff."
That's why we're on MCN 6 at
10 p.m.
3 in the morning.
3 in the morning.
Yeah, I was talking about the Duluth mayors. The progressives needed to get off there, and I started the sentence, and I'm like, "Oh shit, I'm on Almanac." I get the progressives need to get off there. Yeah,
You have to say duffs.
Duffs. Yes, I now remember.
Those Almanac viewers
Yeah.
will like that word.
But this was about Dean Phillips continues to be in the news because he was on Meet the Press this last week. This was the quote of his on Meet the Press that just drove me and it tells you. To my mind, what these purplish middle of the road people actually stand for. He says, "I have trouble with Donald Trump. I do not have trouble with Trumpers who are trying to find somebody to change the system. The hardware is fine. The software is the problem. The people with whom we're populating the system." Like, I suggest you learn a little more about hardcore Trump supporters and the things that they support before you say that you have a problem with Trump, not Trumpism. Like, whoa.
Is he like trying to get someone to prime? I just don't understand
what
the end goal is.
Melissa Franzen. Paige and Melissa Franzen.
Is a purple district.
Yeah,
It's
it really
periwinkle
is.
now.
Yeah. Azure.
It's actually, I mean, the district now, how the House
It is
members,
because
how many
he
House
has
members
made it, but
are?
he took it from a Republican.
Yeah,
No,
it
but in the
was red.
Minnesota legislature, what is the breakdown of this of CD3 seats in the
Right. Well,
Minnesota
that has
legislature?
completely
Almost
shifted since.
all.
Yeah.
Almost all
Not all,
blue.
but
blue.
Almost all blue.
I'd
yes.
have to look because I don't know if he has Maple Grove or if
He has
that's in the
Bloomington,
six.
right? Yeah.
No, that's
No,
all
there's
blue now.
definitely been a shift in the district, but you could credit him with that shift. He took that seat from a Republican,
Him and
a
Trump,
long-time Republican
and
with
Trump,
big money.
and you can, and the way the Republican Party has turned against women in the suburbs, like it's
you
a
can tie it
lot of
back
different
to-
factors.
you can tie it back to
To
Amos.
what you said before. Yes,
That is true.
It's the
Republicans
Barbie-hating
have large-
Republicans.
But I'm just saying, like, you're not going to have. It's not a super progressive district.
No,
at all.
it's not.
So the moral of the story is, if you are a moderate Democrat, you have no home. The modern,
come on over to
modern
the
Minnesota
Republican
DFL party
Party.
does not want you.
What I'm saying is someone who
don't
says
go
I
to
don't
our
have a
meetings.
Trump with, I don't have a problem with Trump, I have a problem with Trumpism, is no moderate. That's the point.
Oh, yes, that's a good point.
Well, that's one guy. The rest of you,
No, that's the only guy.
give
the only guy
Amy
we're
and
talking
I a
about.
call. We'll tell you where to go.
Right.
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
for-
where will you tell them to go?
Our house.
Yeah, I was gonna say, yeah. So it's like your lonely caucus.
Right here,
Right
sitting
here.
in that seat.
Yeah. But
Unless they're snitches.
That's only Mike
amazing.
Bryant's
That was
rule.
amazing.
Yeah.
well, you know,
Ah.
that was.
I think
don't
we know what the
usually-
clip is for
It was
YouTube
so
this week.
deeply felt because that was
Yeah,
he had
he
not
was
prepped
like,
that. That was not scripted. He just no. I just don't usually represent snitches. And I was like, whoa, hello.
Could you imagine you walk in, you're like, "Hi, Mike Bryant. Could you?" Well, what you think you're just going to snitch and everything's going to be
Rudy
fine?
Giuliani, attention, America's mayor. Go and talk to Mike Bryant, man.
I mean,
hire.
There's a lot of
Bradshaw.
There's a lot of people indicted here. They are going to probably have to branch out on
Right.
and
That's
where
true.
they find their
Well,
lawyers.
if they're smart.
That's true. That's
Not Rudy though, because he can't pay his legal bills.
That's how they're
somebody who can
prolonging
pay
the
your
thing.
legal
in,
bills.
That's how they're prolonging the thing in Florida. Well, not and then the new person who was indicted, like they keep saying, I don't have Florida counsel. Like, and that's how they keep
Like
postponing.
there's
And
no lawyers in
because there are no lawyers in Florida. There are no lawyers in Florida. But yeah. So Georgia, we do have listeners in Georgia. Remember we had a Marietta
17
mom.
million TikTok influencers and not a lawyer among them.
Yeah.
Way to go, Florida.
No, but we do have Georgia listeners. So or at
well.
least one Marietta mom. So if you know any of those indicted.
Yep.
Co-conspirators.
That's right, Marietta Mom.
Yeah.
Or
yeah.
unindicted co-conspirators.
Right.
We got a lawyer for them, man.
Yeah. You guys, we have a new member of a club.
Yeah.
Yes. I just want to say on background here because we were talking before. Someone approached Davis and said, "I'm not a dick, but I'm still a dick. But what is it? I have."
They're doing a huge remodel in their house.
Yeah. So
and I said, no.
You're not a dick. That's the whole point. If you can't afford it, if you have like kids and you're not, don't have like lobby money, like this guy to my left, it doesn't apply to you. It only applies to people if you have an extra few bucks a month and you rather than go to the Dairy Queen or get another beer, you just throw a few bucks our way because if you can afford it, you're not doing it. You're kind of being a dick.
You're stealing content.
But also Dairy Queen, the Dairy
Wow,
Queen season.
You're gonna
You're stealing.
you're practically racketeering.
Yeah.
We're gonna indict.
If you're doing
now
it,
we
don't
know
talk.
it's a
Don't talk
group.
to one other person, or else they're gonna get you.
It's a group conspiring together. That's racketeering.
Right. All of our,
Consorting.
you know what? All of the dicks, they are a
We
racket.
have a case. We should talk to Mike Bryant
All right,
about that.
here's a deep cut. If you remember our first episode, which is lost to history because it was so unlistenable and bad, but in it we were talking about, and I'm not even going to remember his name. He was a Republican running for governor, Scott Honor.
Oh,
Scott Honor,
wow.
and he was someone who was wealthy with his business dealings. And in our first episode, I referred to him. I think we all kind of were as a raconteur because we thought it meant like a rich person when it doesn't.
No, I didn't think it that.
Yeah, well, now I know what it
told
means.
So you guys
it's a
were
storyteller.
dumber than too?
Yeah.
He and our first Republican woman, Mike Franklin.
Franklin.
Oh, yeah,
They
Mike
thought they were like raconteur. That means a rich person.
I thought
right?
it was like a bon vivant, but
no.
'cause I know what that means too. I guess
Do you?
it's a good vivant.
I guess.
He's a raconteur.
Everything is bone.
It's someone that's living good life.
Anyway, we love
A
Neil.
raconteur?
We love
Bon
Neil.
vivant.
Raconteur is like a good speaker.
It's a storyteller. My God, I can't tell. Like I told you at the time, I am a stage storyteller. I am a raconteur.
I myself am a raconteur.
Okay, right now I don't feel safe.
Wow.
And you're being a little heteronormative, despite that shirt.
Yeah.
And his nails.
Can I just tell you? So I was on a Zoom call the other day with Teamsters. It was a lovely call, really cool people. But I put my hands on my face and I saw myself in the Zoom. I was like, oh shit, Teamsters.
Read the room, Javier.
I got self-conscious, and then I felt stupid about feeling self-conscious. You know what? Screw it.
No,
This is your
You know what
labor
that's
guy.
like? That's like it's like that the jumpsuit that you fashioned for Barbie.
Exactly.
And then your sister
Yeah.
took
That's
it.
right.
Nope.
Yeah.
Nope. This is new Javier. I'm not apologizing for the pink, you
right.
butthole.
Right. It was a really cute romper,
Anyway,
and he designed it.
plugs anyone?
Oh yeah, gosh. Well, Brian and I are on the BS show on Tuesday. Javier and I were on Almanac. You maybe heard. Because we
have
like the
heard.
hell out of that.
And thank you, Almanac, for plugging us so much.
I will be on Channel 4 this Sunday at 10:30 with Esme, talking about the presidential race.
With Abu?
With Esme Murphy.
Oh.
No, just me. Just me.
He's making a solo.
Nice balance,
It's a
Esme.
solo. And well,
Esme's
listen,
the
she
balance.
mostly has Democrats on. So, and also this week you can catch me a couple different times on Al Jazeera English. I guess most of you can't. I'll post on Twitter. You can go.
You have a show on Al Jazeera English?
I was on twice this week talking about the indictments and different things. So I may shortly have a show. They're out of Doha in London. You might have.
Yeah. So, good for you. That's nice.
Good for you.
That's nice that you're high demand like that. Yeah. Anyone else got anything to plug?
No.
Nope.
Amy doesn't spread the wealth.
Yeah. Davis means business.
She hoards it.
All right. Spanks and thanks. Who wants to go first?
I can go. So, okay, Gabe, first one I'm doing double spank. So my first spank is going to be a crime in Lower Town. So this week, a bunch of residents and businesses from St. Paul's Lower Town went on to Channel 5 of KSTP and spoke about just, the danger of living down there. And, my wife, Jenny, before we got married, she lived right in Mears Park, so right in Lower Town. And this is, pre-pandemic, and it was dangerous for her to walk the dog, to go out at night. There were people doing drugs, people defecating, people just, of course, doing the normal gross catcalling stuff. So while we talk about, and this is not a shot at Javier, because if the numbers said what I wanted to, I'd say them too. But while we talk about how, crime's going down, there are real people who are living in really horrible, dangerous situations. And what do they say? There's lies, damn lies, and statistics. So we just have to remember that there are parts of St. Paul, parts of Minneapolis, parts of the greater metropolitan area, and probably parts of greater Minnesota that are not safe. And while we're each trying to make our political points, we have to remember that there are people who can't get the mail, get a coffee, walk the dog without being in real danger. So that is my spank, is to all the bums that, I don't mean that as unhoused people. I mean that as assholes who are treating that area like their toilet. My other spank, which is 20 times, maybe 100 times more egregious, is to this restaurant in Shakopee.
This is a crime.
So Representative Brad Tapke, who I know listens to the show from time to time, we're going to need you to kind of, as the representative and former mayor, kind of take care of this. But there is a restaurant that apparently is called Bravi's. B-R-A.
Are you sure there's an? I think it's just called Bravis. I don't think that's an exclamation point.
It's either a restaurant that belongs to Bravi's,
or it's ours.
Bravis. And
Their logo certainly looks like Bravest.
it looks like Bravest.
It's prettier than your Bravest, too.
Well,
Watch it.
That's not true. Our Bravest is perfect.
Also, there's no merch in their store.
Yeah, you know what? You know why? You know what? Because
They took it down.
they're going to get RICO'd. We're going to RICO their ass because Bravest belongs to us. Maybe
TM.
not legally, but
TM.
in the hearts and minds of us. So,
Yeah, too
Bravies-
bad neither of you are lawyers to copyright
Well,
It would be a trademark.
or whatever.
you know what? We trademarked wrong about everything, and it's been just a lot of paperwork for me. So I don't want to do that anymore.
No.
But anyway, so Bravies. First of all, you got to find out: is it Bravest?
Yeah, we
Is it
want to know that.
Bravies? Because if it's Bravies, we'll let you stay in business. If it's Bravest, close your doors.
Or change their
Or
name.
cut us in.
Have you ever thought about?
If you want to send us food,
yeah.
look,
Let's
see?
record the
You know
podcast.
what?
I like it just like
Let's
that.
record the podcast and shock people.
Yeah.
we have. We'll wear your T-shirts.
Exactly. We'll
I've
eat
made
your
two.
food.
We've
We'll
made
eat
two.
your
We'll eat your food. We'll even let people record us eating your food wearing your T-shirts. So, hey, this is a threat and an opportunity. So, you're spanked until further notice.
They have a Taco Tuesday. We could have a
whoa,
wrong about everything Wednesday. Come on. Come on, Bravest.
They got all kinds of ideas.
All right.
We're gonna
Davis
work
means
this out.
marketing genius.
All right.
.com.
Amy, you ready?
All right, I will do. Okay, so my spank, there was a post over the weekend because there was a Republican state central meeting that apparently got spicy. And most folks, don't necessarily follow, especially state central is like an insider's insider, right? It's the inner workings of the party, but it's the state central folks that elect the party chairs. There's a lot of business of the party and a lot of decisions of the party that are made at state central. And then beyond that, made at conventions and made at caucuses. And in particular, in a state like this, Republicans are still a very endorsement heavy. That's still like the decisions made there are still weighed heavily when it comes to a general election. We've never, for example, in my entire involvement here, have we had a governor's candidate on the ballot that didn't get the party endorsement. It's just been how our party is. Over the weekend, there was an effort to oust the MNGOP chair, David Han, that was barely fended off. So they didn't reach the threshold they needed of 50% to
Who was the challenger?
It was just that it was a procedural vote that would just say that it was brought by Representative Eric Mortensen, former representatives Eric Mortensen
From Shakopee.
They voted to move forward with a motion to replace Han. It doesn't say who. I assume maybe him. And while this fell short of the needed, it speaks volumes about the dissatisfaction of the Republican Party chair, which I think is true. He also defeated a motion that he would forego his salary until the MNGOP pays the Mayo Civic Center. I don't know what that's about if they haven't paid for the convention. But it exposes Bear. First of all, it's embarrassing, right, to have all this sort of swirling, but also. I think that Republicans, sort of the party faithful, have moved away from going to the conventions at State Central, and I get it. It becomes very frustrating, right? It's been a difficult road within the Republican Party, but when we don't go, the folks that are left, they're really in control, and it only takes 100, 200 votes to change a lot of things about this party. And so I guess my spank is I get it, but it's also for me and others that used to get involved with the party politics and have stepped away from it out of frustration. And so I'm saying we need to get back in there. And so I'm spanking me and others that have not done that lately. And let's get back to it. And then my thank this week, as you all know, I've been spotting a conspiracy in the state of Minnesota. And it's not even my conspiracy. It's just really what's happening. Celebrities from Hollywood have been coming to the state in droves and just accidentally showing up at places, being discovered like never before. And my theory, and I know I'm right, is that these folks, these Hollywood elites, had moved to Montana and Colorado. We've all heard that, Idaho, looking for a place that wasn't California, which they had already ruined. But the problem is there's a water issue, right, in the western states. It's still not far enough. And so they've been scouting James Cameron, Ludacris, Ashton Kutcher. They're sending all their very worst. Well, okay.
Lady Gaga's good.
Okay, there we go. But my spank this week is because they sent a representative that I'm a little torn on. They're getting smarter. They've been listening. And celebrity spotting this week was Miles Teller, and he was in the Brainerd Lakes area. He went to Zorba's in Gull Lake.
You're getting soft, Amy.
I know. Well, they're coming to take our water. But so if you all know, Miles Teller is he played in Maverick. He's the hot guy that played the pilot. I don't know what else he's been in.
He was Rooster.
It was Rooster.
Maverick.
And he
Maverick?
showed up at
Top Gun
Zorba's
movie.
and also was apparently staying at Grandview Lodge in Nisswa. Now, it's still not okay to come and take our water, and we still need to build the wall. But
You're gonna let
there
him
can
in.
be a place for you, Miles Teller.
Do you think that Brainerd put it on the front page of their paper?
Oh, I'm certain they did.
like
And
the
certainly
Star
Bring Me the
Tribune?
News is just always running with this stuff. Now I don't know if they're trying to like scare me
Bait you.
or support my theory, but it's working.
Well, they should know. We need to get in touch with Bring Me the News. Well, like, listen, stop being so sanguine about all these celebrity sightings.
And also, they didn't have them all because sometimes I have some
Yeah,
that
that's
they
right.
don't have.
You had that one.
I had
Yeah.
Ludacris and
On
Drake.
Drake's boat.
On Drake's boat. I had a hot scoop.
I saw this one and I was like, oh, God, Amy's right.
I know I'm right.
I know.
And what it is we have the largest
give up.
freshwater
Yeah.
body in
I'm
Lake
convinced.
Superior,
Yeah.
right there off our Duluthian shore, and that's what they're after.
Yeah, I'm
Cannot
convinced.
allow it.
I'm
Thank you.
convinced.
It's too many. It's
allow
too much. One is a coincidence. Two is.
A
This
Rico
is a Rico.
conspiracy.
This is an invasion. It's a racketeering.
Oh my God, it is a
situation.
racket.
Yeah.
It's a Hollywood racket.
Yeah, they're stealing. It's a crime. There's more than one of them.
You've all been warned again.
Yeah. Don't give them water.
Don't.
Not even ice water for
No,
the no.
no,
Yeah.
no, it's ours.
Easier to transport when it's ice.
Yeah.
They chose.
All right, Davis.
It's my turn. Okay. So I've got a spank and then a thank that is like a
spa-thank.
thank. Yeah. So my first spank is, and I did this one a couple weeks ago, but now I am joined by the people of Alabama.
Oh.
So my spank
Tide.
is
Oh no.
myself and 58% of Alabama voters, which like is an astounding amount of Alabama voters, say Tommy Tuberville needs to cut the shit and his hold
Was
on
that
these
the poll
military
question?
nominations. I think it was. I think they
Tide.
said, you think Tommy should cut the shit? And they were like, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, he is just has a stranglehold on any military nominations. The Marines are still without a leader, and his own people, the people he represents, are like, we don't know. This is stupid. You're not changing anything.
Yeah.
And this is what happens when you elect coaches. when you
from
decide
Auburn.
they should switch to
Right.
be politicians. And my second, so I'm thanking the Minnesota Reformer because they, when I make a generalization here later about journalists being unable to Google, they are not among them. They are often the ones who
They do Google.
They know how to Google. So the Minnesota Reformer pointed out that the Washington Post had this enormously long profile of this local attorney who was a opioid addict when she was in medical school, and then she went to jail, and then she went to law school, and she came out. But the Washington Post neglected to Google and find out that she has entered the race to primary the CD5 representative. Right. And the Star Tribune found that out, but didn't mention, oh, hey, the Washington Post did this like puff piece about her literally yesterday. And then what the Star Tribune didn't realize either is that when you are talking about a lawyer, there's a lot of public information available. And this person who everyone thinks is so great and might be, but she's representing private clients and she doesn't have any liability insurance, which generally means you're judgment proof. And
Which means what?
Which means if your client thinks you did a bad job, I'm going to sue you. Mm-hmm. If you have malpractice insurance, they collect from that, just like someone who operates on you. If you don't have malpractice insurance, they're kind of screwed.
Yeah.
And so I went down a rabbit hole, and it's not unethical except in 2 states. But it is a bit of public information that they put out, and I just am begging journalists to Google, except for the Reformer, because they Google.
You guys, pretty soon, Davis is going to be when we do plugs, is going to be plugging their detective agency. Because
Davis means private investigation.
Davis means Google.
When the first story came out about her running against Congresswoman Omar, Davis within minutes was like, this person doesn't have liability insurance.
Yeah.
It was like, how do you know this? Like,
It's all right there.
Googled
On the Google.
on the Google.
It's all on the Google.
Yeah.
Remember when I was the only person that Googled Cedric Alexander?
Yes.
Where's he now?
Yeah, that's
Right.
true.
I am available for Googling if you would like to hire me.
All right. So my spank is for the state of Idaho. The 2023 Teacher of the Year is a teacher named Karen Lauritzen. She has over 2 decades of experience, was named the 2023 Idaho Teacher of the Year. She earned accolades from then State Superintendent of Public Instruction, Sherry Ibarra, a Republican first elected in 2014. Everyone loved Karen Lauritzen until some people saw that she liked the posts of some gay people. That she liked some posts related to Black Lives Matter. And her life was
Clicked them.
clicked like on them. She was immediately harassed and made to fear for her life. And so she had to leave the state. And so she's left the state. And Idaho, like many states, and like many, in particular, red states, like across the nation, there's a teacher shortage. This is especially true in red states where teachers make a lot less money, and where there are campaigns such as this one to terrorize teachers. She was accused of indoctrinating students.
With her likes?
Yeah, Idaho already has bans on talking about things like God forbid anyone acknowledge that gay people exist. But it's just horrific. Between this and all the book banning that is happening across the country, I mean, I think the real movement we need is a freedom to learn. My thank is there's a lovely profile in the Huffington Post I encourage everyone to see about our U.S. Junior Senator Tina Smith. It's a lovely story. It's called The Velvet Hammer, which was a nickname for her that R.G. Ryback gave her when she was chief of staff, because she, and this is absolutely true of Tina, she's like a lovely, lovely human being, but she will take no shit. And I particularly love the story because Democrat Patty Gay Flanagan, our lieutenant governor, our LG, if you will, is quoted in it, and she says, Lieutenant Governor Flanagan obviously followed in Lieutenant Governor Tina Smith's steps and becoming Lieutenant Governor, which before them used to be a job that nobody really wanted because it's just a ceremonial post, and Tina really reinvented the job. And so Peggy is quoted in this article as saying, a very good friend of mine said that's where careers go to die. But watching Tina really completely change this role is the only reason, to be very candid, that I even decided this was an opportunity. So I am that very good friend, and I'd love any opportunity I have to tell the story that when Mark Dayton was looking for a running mate for his second term, because Yvonne Pretner-Solon decided not to run again, there were all these rumors about who it might be, and Tina's a good friend, and I was texting her on a Friday, and I said, I heard it might be this person or this person, and she wrote back, oh sweetie, it's me. And I thought she was joking, so I wrote back, ha ha ha, that's where careers go to die.
Oh, so you told her directly.
Yeah.
Oh, well, I told Tina that, and then
Senator Tina Smith.
Yeah. We were texting back and forth. So I text that, and then I hear back nothing. A day goes by, and then by Sunday, the rumors that it was Tina. By then, I was like, oh, fuck! It wasn't you were serious. So then on Monday there was a press conference that I showed up, announcing, oh yeah, I went, and she came over, she laughed, but now there's never a time that I'm amongst any group of people that Tina does not tell that story, and I deserve it. But yes, but she did redefine the role, and it is true that was
Yes,
where careers went to
before.
die, but no
Before
longer.
Tina.
Anyway,
You just had to have a governor that kind of needed a lot of help.
well, and he was brilliant. He got the help that he needed. And,
Bork.
oh, hey, settle down.
The popcorn.
Hey, settle down. You settle down. All right. Okay, with that, I am Democratic strategist, the Puerto Rican heat, Javier Morillo.
I am father of a proud Iowa State freshman and might go to Bravi's this weekend at 105 Lewis Street, South Shakopee, Minnesota. You can also reach them at 952-417.
Why are you giving them free advertising?
So they don't sue me back. Until I can sue them first. Brian McHale.
I don't snitch. I'm Amy Cook.
And I am pretty sure it's pronounced Bravest, just like ours.
Yeah.
Davis Sensman.
And we are
Wrong about everything.
Take us away, Gabe.